So I've been messing around with this really ridiculous phone called the Unihertz Tank. This thing has a 22,000 milliamp hour battery. No, that is not a typo. Maybe you can tell by the thickness of this thing that I'm being serious. A 22,000 milliamp hour battery, in addition to lots of other things. That's rugged. It's got a 1200 lumen flashlight on the back of it. Lots of really, really crazy stuff. And as I've been testing this thing, the battery life has been absolutely unbelievable. I watched an entire half of a football game on this thing on YouTube TV and lost 2% off of my battery over that span of time. That was like well over an hour total that I had the screen on, straight 2% battery life. And as I've been doing this, a particular thought popped into my head. What sort of gaming experience would you have on a device like this? Because when you're doing mobile gaming, even if you have something like a ROG phone, 5,000, 6,000 milliamp hour battery, whatever it is, battery life is still a big concern. However, on this device, battery life would no longer be a concern at all. This thing has a speaker up here and a speaker on the back, so it does have stereo sound, which is pretty decent. It's not on the same level as something like a ROG phone, but still stereo speakers, right? It is running a MediaTek processor, which is something like half as fast on a Geekbench score as the top flight gaming phones. But again, if this thing could game remotely well, decently well, and still have battery life where your playtime could be measured in not hours, but in fact in days, which is going to be the case with this thing, perhaps you could make a decent case for buying this thing to get some long-term gaming sessions done with. In this video, that is exactly what we are going to be testing. So let's jump into some gameplay. Now, please do excuse, though, as we do jump into this gameplay, the fact that I am absolutely horrible at playing games only on a touchscreen. I was born in the 1980s. Okay, so we're going to get this thing sort of centered on the screen. I did not mention this, but it also does come with 256 gigabytes of storage and 8 gigabytes of RAM. A couple more things paired with this rather large 6.81 inch full HD screen. They could make this thing pretty decent, potentially, at gaming. So the first one that we're going to test is, I think, one that is just tried and true and that a lot of people have played over the years, and that, of course, will be Minecraft. I'm struggling to find anything sitting sideways. Of course, there is Minecraft. So let's load this up. And, again, this is not a game that's particularly, like difficult to run or to play, but I think it's a good place to start. So let's jump in, and I'll let you see how long it takes to load into this level. First off, let's just go into my world, and you'll see that it's not the most lightning fast thing, right? If you're going to be using something with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 like my Z Fold, yeah, you're going to be faster. But again, 22,000 milliamp hour battery, and that wasn't too bad at all. So we're now in Minecraft. All right, let's try to walk around and let's see what we have here. Of course, the settings are bone stock. I've not touched them at all. Something is hurting me, or maybe it was that little bush thing there. It is a very large screen, so I do want to mention that unless you have large hands, you might have difficulty, gaming on something this large. But that is going to be the case also on other gaming phones, so that's pretty par for the course. You can see here, though, that it is quite quick to respond. It is quite decent, actually, in my estimation. I'm having no issues at all running around. Let's punch a tree for a little while. Everything seems absolutely fine. Not a big shocker here. Minecraft does tend to run on whatever now on these Android devices, but I felt like that was a good place to start. Minecraft is fine. Let's jump now to Pubg Mobile, a game which I think runs absolutely fine as well, but the problem that you will see here is maybe due to some slower storage on this thing. It does take a little while to actually get into the game. My reflections are quite pronounced now. Hello. We'll lay it down and see if that makes it any easier. Again, don't pay any mind to my performance in these things because, yeah, it's not going to be very, very good. But it doesn't take a super long time to actually get into the game. It's not too bad at all. You can see there we have loaded into the pre-match lobby pretty quickly. Let's just auto run here, and everything is running absolutely fine. Now, I do believe here that when I first set this thing up, my wife is just blowing up my phone. I believe that I did actually download the HD textures. I did. You can see they're HD. I don't believe HDR and these other things are available. Let's turn on colorful because I do think that looks nicer. So yeah, our settings are on the HD texture pack and we are running totally fine. My sensitivity is probably a little bit high, but nonetheless, I think everything is pretty much okay. We'll wait till we're actually loaded in the plane, maybe till I'm parachuting, and then we'll be able to see what's going on there. All right, we're going to go ahead and parachute, and we're just going to pick a spot down here, maybe near the school or something. I don't actually want to get into a fight straight away, so maybe school is a bad idea now that I'm thinking about it, but whatever, we've already committed. Maybe we'll do Roshawk. Roshawk is, I can at least hide a little bit in here. And then once we're on the ground, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let you hear the audio from this thing as well. But as you can see, performance is absolutely rock solid as I parachute down into this town. Nary a stutter at all. Graphics aren't incredible, right? But I think that they are easily good enough. Let's see if we can land and get into this building really quickly so I can adjust my microphone, maybe find a gun or something, and we'll go from there. Well, that went about as well as you'd have expected. All right, in order to further embarrass myself, let's load up Apex Legends, another game that I do not play. Volume turned up very loud there. And I think you could probably hear from that last clip that the speakers are pretty decent on this thing, right? Like, they're not the best in the world, but they are plenty enough to get the job done. How old am I? Why do you need to know this? So I don't see a way, unfortunately, to not play with trios, so I'm sorry for the two people that are going to have to be on my team. I don't think I'm going to make it very long, but we have to test the game, so we're going to test the game. Not too bad in terms of the loading time. Obviously, matchmaking took a second, but once that was done, this did load in pretty quickly. We're just going to confirm the only character that I've ever played as on this game, and we're going to roll on. All right, so as we begin flying overhead, looks like I can look around pretty easily. Not a whole lot of frame lagginess there. There's a little bit of stutter there as we jump, but that seems to be pretty normal for Battle Royale games like this. I'm not really going to hold that against it too much. And of course, this does have the ability, like in Apex Legends on PC or console, to just sort of have you follow your guy. There's some weird stuff going on there, some black stuff popping in. Let's see what happens once we're on the ground. All right, we're on the ground. Jump. Need to find stuff. A little bit of lag. Okay, the aiming is way too sensitive for me. Oh my goodness. Okay, these are clearly bots, I'm assuming. Which is really, yeah, wow, these bots are terrible. Okay, the aiming is unbelievably sensitive. I don't know who on earth is playing this way, but I think you can see, though, let me just sort of run around. I think you can see that it's running pretty well, if you excuse my inability to aim and to shoot at all. I think you could play this thing totally fine. In fact, it looks pretty good. Like, I'm kind of impressed with how good this game looks and how well it's running. Apex Legends, I think, is a total success. I'm not going to test COD Mobile, but I think based on the fact Apex is working really well, I think you could probably pretty easily imagine that COD Mobile is going to work just as well. So while we don't have as fast of a processor as something like an ROG phone, something that's, potentially twice as fast, these games are still going to run pretty well. Are they in maxed out settings and things like that? No, they're not going to be. But, can you get some gaming done on this thing? I think you definitely can. Now we have to jump over to the big dog, Genshin Impact. All right, that wasn't too bad in terms of loading time. And now what I need to do is I need to go into the settings, which I had to play enough of this game to get to these settings. And let's go to graphics. And you can see here, I have it set to the highest. And let me tell you, in person, this actually does look pretty good, guys. There's motion blur. There's all kinds of cool stuff going on. I can't imagine I'm not going to have some frame rate issues playing this game on this setting. Am I going to get a buttery smooth 60 FPS? Probably not, but you have the ability to lower these settings a little bit. So I just wanted to kind of start out at the highest to give you a baseline. And if I'm honest here, it's doing a lot better than I thought it was going to do. It's not running at 30 FPS. It does feel like it's stuttering quite a bit, but this is like borderline playable even at the most maxed out settings. What on earth is that? What is happening? Who knows? There's no way to tell. Let's go back into these settings and let's look at the graphics and let's drop it down to like medium, right? And now I think the game still looks very good, and now we do have a much smoother frame rate. This is definitely playable. This game, best I can tell, is basically like a Breath of the Wild style game where you can climb things and fight things and explore and do all kinds of cool stuff like that. And yeah, this is absolutely extraordinarily playable on the Unihertz Tank. So overall, guys, I'm actually really impressed with what this behemoth of a phone running the MediaTek MT6789 processor, what this thing is actually capable of. I mean, Apex Legends, Genshin Impact on medium or even high settings, totally possible. Minecraft, PUBG Mobile, all absolutely playable. And I think that the most impressive thing about all of this was that all that testing, which, look, I skipped over and sped up a lot of this stuff. Overall, I've been recording for a little while to do this. It used, I think I was at 65% battery when I started. I'm at 63% now. So everything you just saw took about 2% off of this thing's battery. Extrapolate that out again. You're going to be playing for not hours, but days. Yes, I know that this thing is marketed towards the rugged outdoorsman, right? Military spec for drop protection, the flashlight, the rugged nature, all of these cool things. The IR camera for night vision photography, all of these things are very, very cool. But I think there's a separate use case here, not just for that stuff, but for gaming for long periods of time. Also, multimedia consumption. I mean, I talked about in another video, and I'll talk about it again here, the fact that I watched a lot of football on this thing the other night and barely lost any battery at all. It's a big screen, the speakers are loud. There's a lot more to this thing than meets the eye. There's some true utilitarian uses for this phone. Guys, if you're new here, subscribe so that you don't miss out on more content just like this. I will see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.